Well, hello beautiful people, welcome to my channel. My name is Teresa and I will be your cruise director today. So I put over on Instagram the other week before I got sick with COVID if anyone was interested in seeing some looks with the Makeup by Mario Neutrals palette, and the overwhelming consensus was yes, which I was really surprised about because look, it didn't inspire excitement when I first looked at it. However, I do have the classic neutrals, classic mattes, which is this one here. So you can see the difference between the two. Obviously, this one is much warmer, this one is very, very neutral. So we're going to do 3 looks today with it, and I'm also going to compare it to the Morphe 18 CT Matte Essentials, which, let me tell you, is so similar. Let me hold this a bit better. Is so similar. I mean, come on. I'll insert some side-by-side swatch comparisons so we can have a look, but I think that if you have one, you don't need both. So we'll do that in a second. But first, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, ring the notification bell to be alerted to any new uploads, and if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. So let's get to it. Okay, so we're going to do 3 looks with this today, and I think first up, you know what I love about this? They're just labelled 1 to 12. I don't need to try and read names, which I can't do, so this makes it really easy for me. So I think first up we'll do a pretty wearable day look. So we might start with M2 and use that as our transition shade. We'll zoom in a little bit now so we can see what we're doing. So this is pretty close to my skin tone. Just gives it a really nice lift. So this isn't going to be anything too crazy. We're just going to, I think what we'll do is essentially we'll sort of go through the gradient. So we'll do something that's pretty soft and neutral, then we'll go in a little bit darker, and then for the last look I really want to use that that grey colour. So that's pretty simple there. Everything else that I'm wearing today, obviously, I'll list down in the description box. Now going in with M4 to just deepen that up a little bit. Same brush. And just little mini circles and windshield wiper motions for that. Okay, so going in with number 6 now, M6. So this is sort of the one of the warmer of the looks. Just trying to see if I can darken that up to where I want it to be. Again, being aware I don't want to go too dark with that. All the while you're doing your makeup, looking straight ahead into a mirror. Particularly, as we know, if you have hooded eyes. Even without hooded eyes, looking straight ahead into a mirror actually gives you a really well defined how the placement's going to be, because if you're looking straight on at people, that's what they're going to see. We're not looking down. Even if you don't have hooded eyes, looking straight ahead into a mirror really helps with placement. And again, I don't want to go too deep with that, so I'm probably happy with where that's at now. And going in with a flat brush now into M1, which is the lightest shade to use across the lid. This is an all matte look. Sorry, I just had to cut then because I had gunk in my eye because I'm filming back-to-back looks and hadn't cleaned out all the crap. So that's a really, really subtle look right there. I'm happy with where that's at. I'm just going to put some cream liner in my waterline. I don't know how well we're going to go with these eyeliners in my waterline as the day goes on. Nothing too dramatic, just to open up the eye a little bit. And then just using this brush in M6, which is this darker shade we used in the outer corner, just underneath the eyes. You'll see I had a bit of creasing there from my concealer, and this will help set that down so that it won't crease again. Then back into number 1 just to finish lightening up. Bring that up. And that's essentially one look. So I'm just going to go and put some mascara on now and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. That is look number 1. Let's have a look. Really simple. You can see that it is a beautiful day look, not too intense, really nice and subtle. Okay, let's get started on look number 2. We might try and go in a little bit darker now, but going to use the more pinky shade, I think, first up, which is M7. And again, all through the crease windshield wiper motions. Now what I think I'll do is this matte Morphe matte palette, I think I will use that and this in a dupe comparison. Okay, that's blended out nicely, and going into the shade next to it, M8, which is a really cool tone. Trying to use as many of these as I can. Just tucking that in there. We might use this right across the lid. Give it a little more depth. So you can see that's just layering up nicely. Back in with this original brush just to tickle over the edges, not adding anything more to it. Cleaning this brush off now. I could just grab cleaner brushes, but we try to keep the brush change to a minimum. Now, going in tonally, increasing that shade, we will go in with M9 and tap that on the outer corner. You can see that's just building up nicely. That's quite a barky, deep bark. Cleaning off the brush. and back into number 8 just to diffuse that on the edge of it. As you know, if you've watched my earlier videos, this is a layering process. Going in with number 7 now, again back over the edge. So it's all about building up your layers to diffuse that out. And then back to this brush and just pulling that forward and sort of horizontally to just below the brow bone. You don't need to add any more to it. In the inner corner we're using M3 now, just to lighten up a little bit. Back in this outer corner. Right, so I'm going to line my eyes now. Line my waterline with the DB Bright Eyes Smoke and Mirrors in this champagne-y sort of colour. It's got a bit of a glow to it. And as I said, this is going to be interesting when I'm doing multiple looks today. Now, I don't know if you can see when we zoom in, there you should be able to see it there, the creasing that I have underneath my eyes. This is why I like to fluff out under my eyes. If you ever have creasing, you can go in with a super light shade and buff it out, or you can go in with something with a bit of depth. Now, just because I'm trying to use multiple shades today, as many as I can, I'm going in with M10, which is a dark brown, and I'm just stamping that along. And then I'm grabbing a smaller sort of flat buffing brush and going into C2, which is the second lightest shade, and just buffing underneath. We'll see how this goes. I may darken it yet. But what it's doing is showing you it's completely buffed out now, that creasing that was happening under the eye. So that won't come back now that I've done that, but I do want just a little bit more into that. So I'm going into M5 just to smoke it a little bit more, and that's just a personal preference. If you don't like much depth under the eyes, you don't need to have it. Okay, so that hasn't darkened up under the eye too much, but what it has done is give it a little bit of depth. Going into C2 again and just lightening up that inner corner, and I'm going into C1 now and just using this to brighten underneath the brow bone. I'm just getting a tiny little pencil brush and I'm just going into M12, which is the black, tapping that off, and just very gently, I've tapped most of it off, but it's just adding just the slightest little bit of depth near the lash line. Okay, so that you can see the difference between the two. I'm just going to go and put some mascara on and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back with look number 2. You can see this has got a little bit more depth happening to it. Shut my eye and turn. And then compared to the first one. So this is a really sort of natural day look, and then this adds a little bit of depth to it, and as you can see, a bit more intensity. Like, it looks like I'm wearing so much more on the eye with my mascara even, and I'm using the exact same mascara, which is the Maybelline Sky High. So, but you can just see that slight a bit more intensity is happening there. So that is look number 2. We've got 2 really easy looks with it. Next we will go into using the darker colours. Let's do a grey smoky look and see how we go. So we're back now with our third and final look. If you can see here, I've inserted some swatches between the 2 palettes, between the Makeup by Mario and the Morphe palette. And whilst the Morphe palette has more shades, it doesn't have all the shades in the Makeup by Mario, but as you can certainly see, there's enough shades. I think I got all bar about 3 or 4 shades, probably 3 shades in here, but the Matte Essentials has a lot more different shades to it. So this has a bit of a burgundy here, it has a few more greys. So if you've liked what I've been doing in the Makeup by Mario so far, but you can't justify the cost, Cosy Lives, all of that, it's just not within your budget, then this is certainly worth looking at. And swatches better, doesn't mean it performs better, but feels just as buttery as the Makeup by Mario, just as an FYI. So we will start with C2 as our transition. Now I've just cleaned off my eyes, which is why you can see that I clearly have mascara on here. So just building that up as a bit of a base, not exactly our transition shade, but more of a base to go on. Using a finer blending brush now, going into that grey shade, which is tapping it off. There's a bit of kickback on that. Again, kickback isn't something that I particularly worry about. Just remember to tap it off well and truly. If you are worried about fallout on your face, do your eye look first, followed by the rest of your face. Looking straight ahead now and having the brush pretty much nearly horizontal, and just windshield wiper motions, smaller ones, back and forth. Now I'm just going to start circling that a little bit just to blend out. Nice light hold right down the end of your brush, teacup hold, that gives you more control on that. Okay, and bringing your brush down to diffuse it up. That's a beautiful cool tone shade. Okay, building this up a little bit now. Again, still looking straight ahead. So what it does, like, even though I've raised my eyes a bit doing that, but you can still, like, I've relaxed my face now, you can see that the shade's there. If you're looking down into a mirror like this with your eyes open, then everything will disappear, you won't see anything. And you're not just tucking in there, because if you just tuck in there, you won't see it at all. I know I'm lucky that I've got a fair bit of space between here and here, but look, it's all meaty, sacky space. So we work with what we've got. If your space is a lot smaller, you can still do it. You just use a finer brush if needs be. Okay, so I'm really happy with how that's sort of diffused out. As you can see, I've just been sort of working it as I've been talking to you, and that's blended out beautifully. So I'm going to use a flat packing brush now, and I'm going into the black. Really tap that off, because we don't want to get that fallout happening. Just on the outer corner here. tap that in there. Going in with a bit more. Just really looking at the placement now. Because we'll use that grey to buff this out in a second. So you can see what's happening on both eyes here. We've got it placed, but it's looking unblended. So back into that grey, back onto the fluffy brush we used with it, and we'll just half on the edge of it. So half of this grey now is over the black and half is into the grey area. And you can see that that immediately starts to diffuse that out. Even on the edge here. It's that simple. So just over the edge of that. So what that's done is it's kept the grey there, but it's that black's given it depth. Now we'll clean our brush off, because just looking now, what we want to do is soften this line as well, and we're keeping into this smoky grey, but I really want to get rid of any black, so we're just going to tap over that edge to just really soften up this harsh line. You can see how I'm sort of tickling it back. And that's giving us a nice diffused grey then. Clean off that brush again. If you don't have one of these, get yourself one, or grab some aquarium filter. Now that's clean, so just going over the edges now with a completely clean brush. And this is a benefit, if you have one of these you can keep using the same brush. I'm going into C2 now, C2, M2, and just around the edges. So what this does is, with your layer upon layer, is it diffuses everything as it goes to help give that blown out look. Cleaning off the brush again, nothing on it, just buffing right on the edge of that grey. Pretty much straight on. And we're just softening the look now. So I've just added a Revlon charcoal, photo ready charcoal to my waterline, and we're just going to really lighten up the inner now. So getting another flat packer brush, which shade we'll use the lightest shade, M1. We're really going to lighten this up. I didn't tap that off. Okay, so really want to lighten up this inner area now. Ah, look at that. That's looking beautiful. So just in a corner now. Now under our eyes, I think we'll keep with this grey. And I'm going to stamp it under the eyes, but I'm also going to use probably the same grey to smoke it out, because we're going to do a bit more intense than what we've done on the previous two. So the brush that we used, the flat brush that we used for the black, we're going to go back in with the grey now before we get a clean brush. So now we've got our brush that we've been doing all of the blending out here with the grey, and that is cleaned off, and we're just going to use that to buff under the eyes now to create this really smoky blown out look. Just using a little bit of the black now, just to stamp right on the lash line. Just adding a little bit of black at the outer corner now, just a little, just a minimal amount. So we'll do one last look just to make sure everything, this is clean again, just to make sure everything is blended to how we want. So, and as you can see, I'm just using this to just finesse that last little bit of detail. So this is the final look finished. As you can see, it's a really nice, sexy, smoky, neutral look for you. Something that's a bit more intense for you to wear out as an evening. Obviously the first two looks were much more daytime. Look number one, certainly all day, every day you could wear that. Look number two could take you afternoon to evening should you want. You can wear during the day, so that's pretty versatile in that it can do both. And this, you know, really nice evening look. You can change sort of the colors I'm using, and again I'll list everything down. I'm using a more sort of neutrally natural color. You could really amp this up with a really nice soft pink, or even a red or a fuchsia. It'd be really intense, but that's how she looks. My final thoughts on this palette is I don't normally go for a completely matte palette, which is really interesting in that everything I've picked up recently, except I think for the Blend Bunny, is more mattes. So do I think that it's worth the money? I really like the formula. I really like the looks that I've created out of this. However, whilst I haven't used it, having swatched it at this point in time, I think that you could get every look that I've created, you could certainly get out of this palette if you have it. The price difference, grab this palette. Quite simply, grab this palette. Unless you are an absolute Mario fanatic, I would probably grab this palette. That being said, again, I haven't tried it yet, but I mean, swatching them, they feel the same. They're both buttery. I would assume that I would absolutely be able to create these looks. So I don't regret getting this one for sure. And truth be told, I don't regret that, but that's me. But again, if you want to save some coin, get the 18CT Matte Essentials from Morphe. I hope you really like them. I know a few of you have got this palette or got one of the two palettes, so absolutely have at it. I would love to see you look. So if you do anything with it, put a photo on Instagram and tag me in it. Teresamadelyne over there as well. I would really, really love to see them. I might have to start playing in some more matte. If you want to add a little bit of shimmer to this, you don't have to do much. I've just got the Stila Heaven's Dew in Silver Lake. Now mine's a bit discoloured because I've put it over other colours, but just rub your finger on that. You can see that wet look that it gives. Like, look at that. So if you wanted to have a neutral palette, completely neutral, that was matte but wanted to add something to go away in to give it a little bit of oomph, that looks really pretty. So that's just a little tip from me to you. These are great. I've got a couple of different shades in them, and it just adds that little bit of sparkle to your eyes. But again, this looks beautiful in the straight matte, so if you want to play with it. I hope you really like this. As per usual, tell your mother, tell your sister, tell your friends to come along and check out this channel. Please give it a big thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please comment. It really helps with the algorithm. I've set myself some goals for the next 12 months. And by you doing any of those things, it really helps out growing this channel. Until next time, take care. Bye.